Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming and watching. My name is Sanjeev Advani. I am here to bring you real estate, property management, and construction content in an easy to digest format that will help you learn the markets and hopefully invest better over time. Today, we're going to be talking about whether and how you should sell your investment property, why you should sell your investment property. We might be breaking this one up into a couple of sections because there is a lot of different content going into this, but let's see how it goes. So, the first one we're going to be talking about today is really having a strong seller's market. So, for example, what is a seller's market, right? If we're an investor, we own an investment property of whatever type, you want to be looking at the seller's market versus the buyer's market. So, the buyer's market is basically when there's a ton of supply and there's not really a ton of competition as far as demand is concerned, right? So, if you have a ton of supply, not a bunch of demand, you're going to be able to now get in and negotiate a little bit more than you would have previously, right? Well, not great for a seller, right? Because the seller now is saying, well, there are 10 other properties like my property. We're priced like this. The buyer's saying, well, there's 10 other properties like your property and you're priced like that. So why don't you make a deal with me here, right? If you're looking at a seller's market, now you have really low supply, really high demand. So right now, in today's market, today's March 14th, 2024, don't even know what month it is, sorry. But March 14th, 2024, out of supply, right? Why? Because where would you go if you were to sell this property? How would you reinvest that money if you were to sell this property, right? And you have a ton of demand because people have been waiting, right? People have been waiting to see what's going to happen with the market. Is it going to go down? Are the interest rates going to tank everything? And now we have a 2008 all over again, right? And so as soon as those rates start to come down, you're going to start to see that demand picks up. Well, if demand picks up and the supply is low, you're in a seller's market. Again, if I'm a seller and I have the only property on the market, but there's 52 buyers that want to buy my property, I'm feeling pretty good at that point because I'm going to get probably what I want and probably at that point a little bit more too, right? Because there are just no other options, right? And so that is something that you want to be looking at. Is the seller, are these part of the factors that you are looking at, right? Now, property appreciation is another one. So if you look at over the past few years, how much properties have appreciated, you really can see that there is a good value to be had if you are sitting on a property that has now appreciated to a significant where you can take that money and you can now maybe go into a bigger investment. So, for example, let's say you purchased a property for $200,000. That property is now worth $400,000. You can now, and you've been paying down on that note the whole time, right? So let's say that you only owe about 100,000. You can walk away with 300,000 minus expenses and stuff. Then you can tap 300,000, you can re-leverage up to, $1 million. And now you can go ahead and purchase another property that starts to pay down even faster, right? So that property appreciation can really help you because that return on equity that you're getting is going to be, a little bit when you're able to kind of renegotiate and investment process there, right? Another thing is that your local market. So if your local market previously was just on fire, right? Obviously markets go cycles. And so your local market may not be going through that on fire cycle right now. It may be going through a depressive cycle versus an appreciative cycle, right? And so because of that, now you also want to be looking at, well, over the long term, is this a market that's going to stay this way where it's going to keep going up, or it is going to start to stagnate, or it is going to start to decline? And at that point, you also want to be looking at, okay, well, where am I investing? How am I investing? And start to maybe look at getting out of that property and moving into a different market. So, for example, if you're looking at a market where, okay, we've been appreciating 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, people are moving here because of COVID and remote work and all of this. And now you're starting to see, well, people want people back in offices. People want to go back to downtowns. And now you're starting to see, okay, well, maybe there's not so many people coming out this way anymore. Maybe there's not so many people buying properties out this way anymore. And all of the jobs are starting to go back to those major centers. Is this a place that we still want to be over the long term? You may want to start thinking about, okay, well, how do I now look at starting to sell this property, right? If you're also in a place of negative cash flow, right? So if you've been able to hold this property, but you have a negative cash flow in the property, but you have this crazy appreciation. So a market that brings to mind here is Los Angeles. in Los Angeles, if you're purchasing a property, generally you're going to have a negative cash flow. But the appreciation is going to be able to offset a lot of that in many cases to make sense for that negative cash flow during the time that you hold. Now, obviously, you don't want to have a negative cash flow forever because you're not certain that that market will appreciate forever as well. And this is kind of a gamble more so as an investor than kind of looking at, okay, well, I get rising cash flow moving forward no matter what. So that can be something, well, when you are looking at, okay, well, this negative cash flow is starting to add up. We have repair and maintenance costs. This property's starting to get older. There's a lot more turnover than there used to be, et cetera. These kinds of things can do when you're looking at, okay, well, maybe I should get out of this property and step into another property. It's going to be a little bit less headache, or maybe another market, right, at that point. So again, looking at all of these different factors. Now, the investment property can also not suit your investment strategy, right? So if the investment property suits your investment strategy, for example, let's say your investment strategy is, I just need to make $300 per door cash flow every single month, and I'm happy, don't care about anything else, then great. That can be something that works for you. Now, if your investment strategy is, well, I need to make $300 a month cash flow, but I also want 5% or 10% appreciation on my property moving forward, then that can also be something that hinders you from moving forward in your investment strategy. And so you may have to now liquidate and refocus, right? So that can make it a very good time for you to be able to say, okay, well, maybe not so great time for me to hold on to this property. Let's sell it and let's move into a different cycle here, right? Now, the other thing is, and this is something that's been very interesting to me, is property taxes. So a lot of people now go into these markets that are kind of a little bit higher cash flow, don't fully do their research, and they're paying these crazy property taxes, right? We're talking about 3%, 5%, 10%, right? And if you think about it, it's like, well, yeah, if you were in your market where you started and you're, for example, here in Bakersfield, you're paying a little over 1%. Then you go to another market where you're paying 3 to 5%. That can be very jarring, and it could also be something that you did not account for. And so that really great cash flow starts to not look so great, because now a lot of that is going out towards, obviously, property taxes, insurance, and other expenses that come up. So this could be something that says, okay, well, maybe although the property is doing okay, we go ahead and we that property, liquidate it, and move it into a market that we know a little bit better, and we meet our criteria or investment objectives a little bit better as well. So same thing there also goes with maintenance costs, right? Let's say that you've owned a property for quite a few years, or maybe you bought a property that was old and you renovated that property. And now again, you're starting to see that property start to kind of deteriorate a little bit. Real estate, it does deteriorate over time, has a useful life, right? And so because of that, now you're looking at, well, maintenance costs are starting to go up, right? I have 2 AC units on this property. Those AC units are both 20 years old. I've got 2 water heaters on this property. Those water heaters are, both 20 years old. On this property is 40 years old, 50 years old, right? These kinds of things can start to add up, and they can start to really eat at those profits, especially if you've had really good profits up until this point. It may be a good time to be able to say, okay, well, now we're going to start a lot more expense. And so it could be a good time to get out of that property before we start seeing that expense, to be able to keep that return up over time, right? Another thing can be tenants. So if you're an owner of multifamily property, or owner of properties with tenants, any kind of commercial or investment property, then that can also kind of be a little bit of an issue, because a lot of people end up at some point running into a bad tenant, depending on how long you're a landlord. And that can really wear on you, especially when this is not your job and not what you do on a regular basis, right? Now, if you're a school teacher and you're used to dealing with kids, well, in fact, I'm a bad example, because you might be good at dealing with tenants who are acting like kids, right? But you get the point, right? As far as, you may not have that skill set to be able to handle that, and you may not know the people who can handle that for you efficiently, right? And so that can cause lots of headaches and make you not want to be kind of a landlord, and could be a good reason to get rid of a property, to be able to move into a less intensive investment that's going to return a similar amount. So, for example, even my mom, right? She doesn't want to have the hassle of having a tenant, because she's worried about, well, what is the tenant going to do to the home? What is the tenant going to do, if they lose their job, etc.? Or do they have enough cash flow coming in? Do they have enough in their savings if they do lose their job to be able to keep this moving forward? And so that headache, that cause of stress to her is not worth it. And so it would be more beneficial to her to be able to say, okay, let me go ahead and sell this property than to hold on to it and try to deal with all of these problems and find people who can, take care of these if these things come up. Again, now we want to go into, because we're dealing with maintenance, we're dealing with tenants, you may just not want to deal with property management, right? Like my mom is one of the people, right? Doesn't want to deal with property management. Doesn't even matter if it goes well. She just doesn't want to deal with it. And so that is something you want to take into account, right? Life is short. If you are doing well in your career and you have a family and you don't want to be focused on, well, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, the tenant just called me, the toilets, flooded the house, and all this insurance now has to happen. And where do I move the tenant? And how do I fix everything? I mean, you may just want to take a break from that property management. There's an owner that I know right now. He is historically a real estate investor and really likes it and has been very good at it. However, with all of the new restrictions and his personal situation, he is now seeing that it is becoming a lot more of a headache than he wants to have moving forward. And therefore, he is looking at being able to kind of offload a lot and move into a different investment vehicle that is going to be able to kind of fit his lifestyle better. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Real estate is not the only investment. Although it does give a lot of advantages, and you can build a team to be able to take care of everything. If you're not that kind of person or don't have that time or don't have that want, then it can be very difficult to stay in, right? Another thing is, if you kind of a major life event, have a death, you have a divorce, you have different things like that, you have a job loss, it could be a good time to be able to get rid of that property, because that property, if you've been holding it, now has some equity in it. You can use that equity to get back on your feet. You can use that equity to be able to pay off debts that are behind. You can use that equity to do quite a bit of different things. And now you don't have the headache of, okay, well, I only get $200 from this property. You may have, okay, if I sell this property, now I have this windfall of $100,000 at one time, right? And so that can be something that definitely helps kind of move you into a different investment vehicle as well. If you inherit a house, a lot of people now, especially with the baby boomers aging, are starting to see that their parents are passing away, but they have no idea what an investment property is. Most of them probably didn't even know there were investment properties in the family, and they don't want to take care of the investment property because it's too much of a headache, and they don't live in the area, and they don't care about the rental. And so what they want to do is they just want to get rid of it, right? And that makes sense. If that makes sense for your life, then that's something that you want to do. And that's something that I feel is very important, that is underrated today, because a lot of people are like, well, we need to be investors and we need to go after the highest maximum returns, and and it's like, yeah, that's great for some people. Most normal people, in my opinion, are not going to want to have to deal with the fact that, well, my dad passed away, I just got this property needs repairs, I don't know how to do the repairs. Oh, by the way, I live across the country, and oh, by the way, I've never done any real estate before. So who do I call? What do I do? No idea. Let me just get rid of it and take the cash and move forward with something that I want to do with my life, right? So that is something that you can look at as well if you're looking to sell your property. And finally, it's kind of looking at if you get out of real estate investing, right? So if you have all of these problems, and let's say you have multiple problems on this list, you may just say, you know what, real estate investing, not that great for me. I would really like to own bonds that pay me X amount of interest on a regular basis, and just kind of, I'll make a little bit so I can invest a little bit more there, and I don't have to worry about it, don't have a headache, and I'm happy, right? So it's really about, knowing who you are as an investor, knowing who you are as a person, and kind of fitting that into the you want and the kind of career that you want as far as your real estate investments are concerned. And, in my opinion, there are reasons to sell properties. I think we went through a lot of them here today. And if you have any questions about that, we're always open to being able to answer questions and things like that. You can visit our website. You can have all of that information down in the information slot below. And if you do like this video, please hit that thumbs up, please hit that subscribe, and comment if you didn't. If you have any other comments, please let us know. If you think we could be doing something better, please let us know. We do want to hear about it, because again, we are here to bring you investment news that can help you invest and learn more about the markets over the long term. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.